Letter. I will make $60,000 this year. I finally thought I made it. Boy, was I wrong.
Oh.
Gotcha. Okay, so, hi Chris, hi Dom, howdy. 3 short years ago, my excitement was palpable as I celebrated making just over $30K in 2020. Fast forward to this year, I've doubled that amount, leaving me over the moon. Congrats. That's awesome. It's been a journey filled with financial struggles that my wife and I have faced for quite some time. Now, however, things are finally starting to look up. Congratulations on being married. Yeah. It's kind of cool. Last week, we took a significant step forward by meeting with a mortgage person to discuss the prospect of buying a house.
Cool.
Very cool. Despite having some debt, our credit is in a decent place.
Okay.
But we don't boast an extensive savings account. The dream of home ownership was alive and well. I envisioned a home in the low 300s, 300,000.
Okay.
Which $300
Where do you
under
live?
a bridge, cardboard from Home Depot. And I envisioned a home in the low $300,000 range, which seemed like a reasonable starting point given the housing market in Ohio. Nice.
I've never been to Ohio. You been to Ohio?
I don't think I've been to Ohio. My friend Bronwyn's been to Ohio.
Oh, very cool.
Big shout out to her. Cleveland, Ohio, she boasts about it all the time. She loves it. I don't see it. It's Ohio. Maybe one day we'll take the Five Guys to Ohio. But reality hit hard. Okay. The mortgage guy shattered my expectations, revealing that with a substantial 20% down payment, a whopping $60,000, which is an entire year's salary, lenders are looking for a household income of around $110,000 to $120,000.
Yep.
Shockingly, I'd need to double my income again to have any hope of making the dream a reality. Even with the FHA program's minimum 3% down payment, they prefer my income to hover around $130,000. This is disheartening, especially considering my wife's contribution to our income as she juggles work and pursues her degree.
Tough lady. Nice.
Yeah. The dream of home ownership feels like it's slipping away, and I can't help but compare my situation to my dad, who bought his first home in 1983 at the age of 18.
Good for him.
I hate those people so much. Before even graduating high school.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fun. Good. Cool.
Good for you.
Good for you. Good for you. Now I find myself paying nearly twice in rent that my parents pay for their mortgage. Seeing my friends easily buying their homes, some even acquiring second or third properties for rentals, leaves me questioning the feasibility of it all. It feels like I'm stuck on a hamster wheel running endlessly without reaching my destination. When will this cycle end? From dreaming of keys in a financial freeze, double my income, yet home ownership seems like a tease. Home ownership at 18, dude. That's
with a high school
before graduating high school. What are you doing buying a house before high school ends? That's crazy.
Maybe he didn't have a good relationship with his parents or something. Or
I took it a different way. I'm like, he must be throwing parties.
It was the 1980s. It was a different time. It was a different time.
Reagan was
the
in
safety
office.
dance had just released.
Yeah, men at work was sweeping the nation. Yeah.
The good old days.
The good old days of the 80s before cell phones and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
What would we do without our AI bot, though? Wow. A lot to unpack there.
There is, and I feel for this listener.
For sure.
I think it really feels like the whole system is rigged, doesn't it? Like, it's for the past few years, there's been a major trend of financial institutions like investment groups like BlackRock who are actually buying properties across various cities, and then they're like effortlessly outbidding normal people because normal people don't have access to capital like they do. That's why whenever you saw those signs on the street during COVID, they said we buy houses cash. That was them.
Yeah.
And being able to just straight up go inside there. That's where people would show up and be like, hey, I have the money. I'm ready to put it down right now. I have my loan and everything ready to go. And then they get a call back from the person who's selling the house like, oh, sorry, we sold this other person who had straight cash.
Yeah.
Like,
For 20,000 more.
for 20,000 more. You're like, who are these magical people? Where are they?
Yeah, like, and then the home sit vacant.
Yep. And homestay vacant, and no one knew what it was.
Drive past your dream home and there's no one in there. You're like, what the is this?
What's going on?
Yeah.
So a lot of that was unfortunately investment groups, and they're also pricing other people out of the market, including myself, including yourself, and I get it. It's really, really, really frustrating. Yeah. I know you said that your dad purchased his house at 18 back in the 1980s, which is super cool. Good for your dad.
With a handshake and 3 raspberries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things have definitely changed, but I do want you to remember a lot of people will cite that as like housing prices have increased substantially. I also want you to remember though that the average size of homes have doubled since the 1980s.
Yeah.
So we are paying for substantially more than our parents got, or I guess grandparents or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Parents purchased years and years and years ago. But I want first off to tell you that you're doing the right things. I know it's unfair, but we have to stick to what we know and what we can control. We can't control what the housing market does. We can't control any of that. But keep on doing what you're doing. It sounds like you're on the right trajectory, and so is your wife. Dude, you've doubled your income in the past 3 years.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
And
Crazy.
I know it feels like I've come this far and now I can't go any further, but you definitely can. It's just a little bit of effort every day. Mm-hmm. And that's what's going to get you. And your wife is currently working and going to school. Hopefully when she gets out of that school, we have a plan to be able to make more money with the education that she has.
Reevaluate the goal and attack it again.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it.
You know, I always ask this whenever I talk to people and they ask me like, is home ownership always going to be out of reach? I always ask like, well, why do you need a house? Like, why do you need to own a house? And I think so many people, again, it comes down to like that money meme or that like money script of owning a house is good. My parents built their wealth through owning homes. That was the place that they were in. We're kind of in a different place now.
Yeah.
As millennials, as or Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen X, whatever they are.
Yeah.
We're in a different spot where housing is a bit unattainable right now. But back then, rental was not like a very viable option for them. Like it was purchase or nothing.
Yeah, there really wasn't.
There wasn't really rentals.
No.
But now rental actually is a good option. According to the Wall Street Journal, the average monthly mortgage payment is a whopping 52% higher than the average monthly payment for a house, an apartment, and a condo.
That's a big difference.
So imagine what you could do from saving that money that isn't going into a mortgage and being able to invest that money for yourself in the future, waiting for the time that you can actually purchase a house from a position of power rather than a position of, I need this right now because I need this right now.
Yeah. Or, I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it. You could continue to rent and, put that money in the market and have it grow and grow and grow, and maybe you don't own a home.
Yeah, maybe I don't know, and that's okay.
There's nothing wrong with renting.
Nope.
Like there's definitely pros and cons to renting.
Yeah, and the nice thing about renting is you can up and move whenever you want. And I know I've heard people say they've cited like, well, I read studies that said that the kids do better in homes that are their own. And
It's so silly.
it's so silly because they didn't actually read the entire study. What the study says is that kids who have a home, that doesn't mean that is their home, is that they have a home, like a place that they can call home. It doesn't even have to be a home, it could be an apartment. Just a place that is theirs. That is what kids want.
Yeah. I've rented and I've owned a home, or not owned a home, but I've lived in a home that was owned by my parents, and it's like, it felt the same.
I think it's important also to say this, in that my rent is the highest amount I'm going to pay for my housing. Your mortgage is the lowest amount you're going to pay for your housing. When you rent, something goes wrong, AC goes out, roof starts leaking, guess who pays for that? The homeowner.
Yeah.
But if you're on the hook and you're the one owning the house, you having to pay for all of that stuff. So when you rent, you can expense housing saying it's going to be this much. And I know that because it's not going to be any more. That's the most you're going to pay.
Yeah.
When you have a mortgage is the minimum you're going to pay.
Yeah.
And if the minimum mortgage is higher than the rent, are you really winning at that point? Or are you just now fulfilling something because your parents told you the way you make money is by buying a house because that's what worked for them?
Yeah.
And that's great that it worked for them. I'm glad that it did for a lot of our parents, because a lot of parents don't have any retirement savings. Because think about that. Millennials and the younger generations are the first generations to actually have like true wealth. So by the time we get to retirement, we're not going to be dependent on Social Security. It's looking like.
Yeah.
And we're just going to be patient. And when the time comes around where more people start dying off and housing starts to come back online, we'll be able to sweep up those houses. So we're going to put ourselves into a position of power and be ready for that.
Yeah. And one of the other things we talked about in another podcast was maybe if you can't find the price you're looking for a home in your area, maybe it's time to pull a little geo arbitrage, as we like to call it, or just pick up and move. I know for me, once my parents move on to the next life,
To Kansas.
yes,
To the farm in Kansas.
to the when they pass, I don't have a ton of family here. A lot of my family that is here is, aunts and uncles, so they'll also be in that farm in Kansas. I could then pick up my life and move, and start a new life where cost of living could be cheaper. Where maybe you live in, I know you live in Ohio, but like maybe you live in California where it's like $1 million home is a shack, and and you go to another place and $1 million home is a 2,000-3,000 square foot home. So it just seems that for me, you got to be flexible, and not saying that like you should or shouldn't, just making sure that's like it's an option.
Yeah.
It's an option.
But I can definitely understand how disheartening and frustrating the situation must feel to you. And just so I can offer some help, there are some steps you can take right now to work towards your goals, even if it might not be the right time right now, and even if it might take some time to get to that goal. So here, I just want to give you a few considerations.
Let's hear it.
Number one is, what can we do to elevate our finances?
Make
Can we
more money.
look closer at and make more money? But also, because there's two sides of financial independence, also two sides to just making money. How much money you make versus how much money you spend. So how can we elevate our finances? Can we budget more? Can we look at maybe taking out some debts? Are we having too much in expenses? Are there any areas that we can cut back to save more, to have a bigger down payment so we can actually meet that 20% minimum when it comes up? And we can avoid that additional insurance cost to be below that limit there. And who knows how long it's going to take for the housing market to come back around to have like normal prices or quote unquote normal prices where they're feasible for us. So right now, focus on what you can focus on. That's going to be your budget, your expenses. Number two, increase your income streams. I know it feels like I just went from 30 to 60. Now you're telling me I have to go up to 120. I'm not saying you have to do anything, but it can certainly help. So you increase some household income by maybe negotiating your salary, looking for new work, starting a side hustle. I know once your wife graduates, she's hopefully going to be moving on to bigger and better things, making more money there. So let's look for ways to manage our savings effectively and to look for ways to both increase our income sources as well. Maybe even supplement our income with some freelance work or part-time work as well.
One thing I've actually seen a lot of people do, because housing where they live is so expensive, is what a lot of people I've found do is they'll buy real estate, like an income producing property, like a rental property, in a state where it's cheaper. And they'll buy multiple properties if they can. They'll maybe buy a duplex or fourplex. And rather than, live in them or house hack or anything like that, they'll use the money to start to fund their life, which I found is really interesting. Really interesting. So it's definitely a way to, if you don't want to just like save your money or have it invested in the market, it's definitely an option to just start looking into educating yourself first off. First off, educate yourself on how to buy real estate, how to buy rentals, how to manage rentals, all that fun stuff. If you have enough time for that.
Yeah.
If that's someone, not everybody should do it. Everybody can do it, but not everybody should do it.
No,
it takes the right personality to take on risk like that, to be adventurous, a very entrepreneurial soul. And if that's not for you, then don't take the advice. But I've seen that a lot. I've seen that a lot. In a lot of times where people will actually, there's this one guy that I follow. Him and his wife lived with his parents for 10 years, and they had about 20 properties before they moved out. And when they moved out, they had enough cash flow for them. They got this huge house and like all this stuff, and they really started like enjoying their money. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, so they kept their expenses super low,
Yep.
and then they were able to just work on their income,
Yep.
and that's what kind of got them to financial independence faster. Obviously, that's a big sacrifice to say I'm going to live
Big
with my parents for
sacrifice,
10
yeah.
years. Yeah. So every individual needs to make that decision. But back to our listener, another option they can do is explore affordable housing options.
Yeah.
So I know that the dream home that you want, or even just the starter home that you want, might seem out of reach, and I understand that. Like it says, like, oh, here's a starter home for $500,000. Like, how is that a starter home? In
Yeah.
San Diego, where I'm from, like a starter home is $1 million. That's why I moved here to Arizona.
Yeah.
Because it's messed up. But can we maybe do some affordable housing options like a condo, like a townhouse? That might be a better starter home than like a true home. Maybe even go back and like listen to our episode where we talked about all the different ways to decrease your housing costs. Because if we're decreasing our housing costs, that's decreasing our expenses, which is increasing our savings rate, setting us up more for a big future expense, which is going to be buying that house when the time comes. And then that kind of leads into saving strategically, right? So paying down, and I know you say you don't have a lot of debt, but your credit score isn't great yet. So let's look at some ways to save strategically. Again, I find the best way to do this is to automate the savings. Before the money even comes in or even hits our bank account, is maybe going to a different thing. And what you can do actually, if you're a W-2 employee, you can actually go to your HR department and you can split up where your check is sent. Did you know that?
That's cool.
So you can have like 20% set to one bank account, 80% sent to another bank account.
Nice.
So I've heard of people doing this where they'll go back and they'll put like 20% goes to this bank account, which is for this.
Taxes.
Yeah. Or
whatever.
Well, that taxes are already taken out if that's the case because they're working for a place.
But like, if you wanted to save extra for taxes.
I guess if you wanted to, I wouldn't.
Okay.
But if you want to do like 20% to savings, 30% to like this investment one that's going to go there, then 50% is coming to me for my expenses. That might be a really good way to do that. And that way the money that's coming to you for like the account you look at is the money you know you can spend.
Okay.
Another good thing that you can do, you said that your credit score isn't great yet, so maybe look to improve your credit score. Having a high credit score can really positively impact the mortgage eligibility and interest rate that you can get. Definitely. So remember, the biggest thing you can do is pay your bills on time. After that, reduce your credit card balances. Definitely check your credit to make sure you're addressing any outstanding like issues from your credit report, and then that might be messing it up. So that's where it really comes in to be important to once a year take a look at your credit report and see if there's any inaccuracies, because you can work on that.
Yeah, definitely.
And then just like be patient and persistent. Like real estate market, it's dynamic. Conditions are constantly changing, but focus on your efforts, your patient, persistent efforts, your systems, your habits. That's what's going to get you to be able to get that house that you want eventually. And I know here in America and everywhere in the world, I want it now. I want it right now.
Yeah, instant gratification is the new thing.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, with everything in life, for fitness, for finance, for all of these things, it's these straight rocket to the moon. It's all these like kind of Ponzi scheme things that seem too good to be true. It's because they are too good to be true. There's so many people right now who are watching late night infomercials, watching their Abcor 6000 that you can get for 3 payments of $19.99 that's going to get you jacked. Yeah. But the moment you get it, you realize, oh, it's just a glorified coat hanger, because the only thing that's going to get me financially fit or just normally fit is by actually putting in consistent effort every day. It's kind of, I think about it like this. I go to the dentist twice a year, right, for my annual checkup. After I leave the dentist, I need to make sure that I am brushing my teeth every day. Yeah. I brush my teeth for 2 minutes twice a day, so 4 minutes a day. I can't go 6 months and then on the day before I go to the dentist, brush my teeth for 9 hours. Yeah. And make up for that entire time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's that persistent effort over time that's going to get you to your home ownership goals. And the final thing is maybe seek professional advice. You can always reach out to me at Mons on Wealth or another advisor in your area who can maybe help you with maybe a debt payment plan, a credit plan. Please be mindful of these and be making sure that you're looking for someone who is a fiduciary, who's looking out for your best interest. Because unfortunately, a lot with like the debt restructuring programs, the credit restructuring programs, there's a lot of grifters in there who are just taking your money and not really adding any value to you. Mm-hmm. So always be cognizant of that. Like big upfront costs usually isn't great. Yeah. But it depends. It really depends. So I don't want to make that as a blanket statement either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add on the mailbag?
Just remember that like achieving financial goals often requires time and dedication. While the journey seems challenging now, taking deliberate steps and remaining adaptable can improve your chances of realizing your dreams of home ownership in the future.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're playing the long game.
We are playing the long game.
We're always playing the long game.
Yeah, it's just so hard. And also, I do think I brought one more thing up. Okay. They also said that they see their friends like buying their first house, their second house, their third house.
That's tough.
It is really tough, but Comparison is the thief of joy.
Bingo.
And also, you have to remember that you don't know everything. Just because they're your friend, like they're not telling you all the financial stuff. You don't know what kind of leverage they're using to get that house and what kind of like maybe pretty dire financial strains they're in. Like look at 2008, the housing crash, where we saw like literally anyone and their mom getting applied for all these loans and buying all these houses, and there were people who were like looking from the sidelines who weren't doing that, who weren't over leveraging themselves. They're like, how are these people doing this?
Yeah.
And then eventually when the rug got pulled out from under them and all these people's houses collapsed and they lost everything, you realize, oh, they actually didn't own anything.
Yeah.
They just had the appearance of owning something. And it's just so important that when you look at someone's life, if you want to trade lives with somebody, you don't just get the positives. Mm-hmm. You also get the negatives. So you're going to get maybe the 3 houses that your friend has, but you're also going to get their stress and their debt and the amount of work that they have to put in to maintain those houses. Yeah. Are you willing to trade all that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not the person to make that decision.
It's wild. Yeah. But he's in the right place though. Mm-hmm. You know, he's asking for help. He's asking for advice. Things are going well.
Yeah, and he's already doubled his income in 3 years. Yeah. Once his wife graduates, I mean, who knows where they're going to go from there?
Yeah, it could double. It might double. It maybe it's definitely going to go up. I hope. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're going to make it.
Yep,
they're going to make it.
And please feel free to reach out to me, Chris at Mons on Wealth, if you want some more specific help, and I'd be happy to kind of point you in the right direction.
Definitely.
Or be there to help you out during this journey.
Yeah, you know what I thought was kind of funny when you were saying that you brush your teeth 2 minutes each time, twice a day, 4 hours or 4 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. I did the math, and 4 minutes times 365 divided by 60 for the minutes is you brush your teeth for 24 hours a year.
Oh.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, but again, I couldn't.
You couldn't brush
Yeah, I can't brush my teeth 24
today
hours.
Today is the day.
Yeah, I'm going to the dentist tomorrow. I better brush my teeth.
The teeth brush marathon. Your teeth would be reduced to ash probably by the end of that.
But it's kind of, I mean, there's so many people that think of that way of like, oh, I want the fix right now. But it's like, if you're going to go and run a marathon, you better start training right now. Yeah. You're not going to be like, oh, the day before the marathon, I'm going to go and run 26 miles to make sure that I can do it and then go run it again tomorrow.
True. It's true. With that being said, thank you for writing into us. We really appreciate that.